A very good evening, Eswatini. You're watching Eswatini TV News Bulletin at 8, read to you by Notilesi Tole. First up, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. The acting Prime Minister says Cabinet is devastated by the passing of former Minister for Public Service, Christian Njangase. The acting Minister for ICT says Eswatini should not panic as there is no relationship between COVID-19 and the developed 5G technology. The Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini has mourned the passing of Minister Njangase. Detail. Eswatini acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku says government is saddened by the passing away of the Minister of Public Services, Christian Njangase. Masuku says Njangase was a hard worker.
The acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku says the Minister of Public Services, Christian Njangase, was a dedicated servant of His Majesty's government and led efforts to transform the civil service to reach the ideals of the strategic roadmap 2019 to 2022. Masuku says Njangase was always available and willing to serve at a short notice. The acting PM added that in his brief 2 years as a politician, Njangase displayed sound leadership and had a heart for the people. Masuku says his infectious smile and sense of humor will be sadly missed by all who knew him. Masuku continued to add that their majesties and the nation have lost an extremely reliable servant. Masuku sends condolences to Njangase's wife, children, family, friends, relatives, colleagues, and Shisolweni constituency during this sad period. In conclusion, the acting Prime Minister says government is in constant contact with the Njangase's family and funeral details will be communicated in due course. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Mbabane.
The acting Minister for ICT, Mangoba Khumalo, says the conspiracy theory that COVID-19 came with the development of the 5G technology is misleading. This is contained in a media statement released by the minister where he was unpacking the 5G technology and its importance.
Minister Khumalo says this theory has no basis and is totally devoid of any truth, as there is absolutely no relationship between the technology and the novel coronavirus. While several countries have undertaken 5G trials or have rolled out 5G networks, it can be observed that these countries are affected by COVID-19 to a similar extent as those who are yet to start trials like Eswatini. Mobile technology works by electromagnetic radiation at low power. It can be noted that 2G was developed in the 1990s and improved to 3G in the early 2000s. The minister says history also provides us with lessons that in the years between 2000 and 2004, there was a lot of militancy against 3G, masked in many European countries based on fears that 3G will cause diseases. None of the same came true. Instead, people enjoyed the benefits that came with the technology as it has greatly improved their life standards by introducing mobile broadband. The minister says the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, among several telecommunications bodies, carried out numerous studies on any new or evolving technology before it comes to the market to determine if the radiation at the different candidate bands of the radio spectrum could have adverse effects on human life and health. The same studies were conducted at the development of the 5G technology, and it was determined that it poses no risk to human life and health. The minister assures Eswatini that there is no link between the 5G technology and COVID-19. The joint declaration the country has recently signed with the United States also has no relationship or bearing with the vaccine whatsoever. While Eswatini has not yet started trials for 5G, it is important to stress that whenever the technology is deployed in the country, it will not cause any diseases. For Eswatini TV News, I'm LinkedIn Kule in Babane.
Eswatini Parliament mourns the passing away of the Minister of Public Services, Christian Njangase. House of Assembly Speaker Petros Mavimbela says Parliament had a good working relationship with Njangase.
Parliament Service Board Chairman Petros Mavimbela, on behalf of board of members, parliamentarians, as well as Parliament staff, has sent condolences to their majesties and the nation on the passing away of Njangase. Njangase died on Saturday night Mavimbela, since Changase was a dedicated servant and he was always in a jovial mood, whether inside or outside of Parliament. He says there was no dull moment whenever Changase was around. Mavimbela added that Parliament had a good working relationship with Changase.
Parliament siyatikhalela kakhulu ngaNtshangase. Sisasebenta naye, siseParliament, sisendlini nangaphandle kwendlini. Ntshangase bomkhanza nje kungiloyo muntu lo bekade ahlala ngokuhlekisa njalo. Asakhuluma lolwimi lwakhe lwesiZulu. Kungilapho bekade sijabula khona sonke sihamba sakhuluma. Noma sisendlini uma asukuma akhuluma, ehlala indlu ngokuhlala njalo kuNtshangase. Ngithi nje ngingumcondzisi wezinkulumo egameni lawo emalunga eParliament. Sithi bakaNtshangase, Mayoyo, Matutu, inkosi beyisiphile, inkosi futhi seyithethe. Kwangazuthi umphefumulo wakhe waNtshangase la ukhona ungalala ngekuthula ize ibuye inkosi. Ngiyabonga.
Changase died while undergoing COVID-19 treatment. The deceased Public Services Minister was also Shisolweni 1 Member of Parliament. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Nelsiwe Dlangamandla Mbabane.
Eswatini will now access Ombudsman of Financial Services complaint forms in all the country's 4 regions. This was said by Ombudsman of the office Nondumiso Simelane, who explained that this is through forced relations with some organizations.
To align their services with government policy of financial inclusion and inclusive growth, and to further achieve inclusivity and accessibility to the Ombudsman of Financial Services by all categories of the public, even the marginalized sectors of the society, the Ombudsman of Financial Services have forged relationships with some organizations. Ombudsman at the Ombudsman of Financial Services, Nondumiso Simelane, says through the forged relationships, Eswatini will now access complaint forms in all the 4 regions of the country.
These relationships that we actually have forged are actually strategic in the manner that we realize that we are presently only located in Baban and would not be able to be effective to serve members of the public in the other places as effectively as we do while we are in Baban. So at least with regard to our complaint forms, we have forged a relationship with one of government offices in the Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration Commission, CIMAC, such that at least we are able to place our complaint forms at every office of CIMAC in the country.
The Ombudsman says they have also formed relations with the Federation of Organizations of the Disabled Persons in Eswatini, Fortswa.
We also have a relationship with the Federation of Organizations of People with Disabilities in the country, Fortswa. The purpose for this is at least to ensure that the principle of accessibility that we observe actually is with effect even to them and appropriate relevance. We have agreed with them for them to help us at least see how we may train our staff in terms of expressions wherein we would not be able to do, like sign language, as well as them helping us with a sign language interpreter in the event we should have one of the parties requiring such.
She further highlighted that Eswatini can forward their complaints at their offices for free, complaints on retirement fund, insurance, investment, and medical aid scheme. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgalswe Khoza with Muslim Konta in Babane.
Since September last year to this past weekend, 168 people have been bitten by snakes in the country. Eswatini Anti-Venom Foundation's Thealechka Cohen urges Eswatini to be cautious of snakes as we are still in the summer season.
Good day, everybody. Once again, there were numerous snake bites in Eswatini. Just on Saturday alone, there were 7 recorded bites. 2 of them were at Good Shepherd, 2 of them were at Simunye. Then we had a bite at RFM Hospital, as well as Matsanjeni. So the 7 people that were bitten this weekend, just on Saturday, 4 of those people were bitten whilst they were sleeping in bed. 3 of them needed anti-venom treatment. And one lady who is 100 years old came from the Stegi region and also had to receive anti-venom. please, we would like to ask and remind everybody to be careful. When you are walking at night, wearing a pair of shoes can protect your feet and your legs from snake bite. And if you are sleeping in a high-risk area, consider buying a mosquito net. A simple mosquito net that is tucked in under the mattress will protect snakes from coming onto your bed. If you have a snake bite emergency and you need the assistance of the Eswatini Anti-Venom Foundation, please feel free to call.
Cancer epidemiologist in the Ministry of Health, Xoltsile Dlamini, says 40 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer in the year 2020, and these comprise of women from the ages 15 to 49.
The month of January is commemorated internationally as an awareness month for cervical cancer, as it is one of the leading causes of death. The Ministry of Health has made many efforts to educate women on this disease, such as holding community workshops and unveiling pamphlets in all health facilities. Cancer epidemiologist in the ministry, Xoltsile Dlamini, says they have seen a decrease in the number of women coming for screenings last year due to the outbreak of COVID-19. She says according to their stats, 40 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer last year, and these are women between the ages of 16 to 49.
The worst painful thing is that it has affected the young adult, the childbearing age, which is 15 to 49 years. And that tells us that due to this effect, we are seeing young women with this kind of a problem. And as we are talking about this, the ministry has some services that are in place in various facilities where we have to encourage women to do the cervical cancer screening. And those who are HIV positive, they're expected to come for the screening every year, but those who are HIV positive are expected to do the cervical cancer screening every after 2 years. Why we have to emphasize on that is that if the cervical cancer is being identified early enough, it is being treatable. We are in a position to do the precancerous treatment. And also, if it's been diagnosed in a stage 1 or 2, it has also the good effect.
According to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, in 2020, an estimated 604,000 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer worldwide, and about 342,000 women died from the disease. Reporting, I'm Lungelile Makakula in Babane.
The Eswatini Economic Policy Analysis Research Center, ESAPARC, in collaboration with the Republic of China and Taiwan, is conducting a needs assessment for the technical and vocational educational training to ascertain which skills are needed for the post-COVID-19 recovery plan to be a success.
Eswatini Economic Policy Analysis Research Center's Senior Research Fellow Mangaliso Mohammed says, working with the Republic of China and Taiwan, they want to make sure that pre-vocational skills play a big role in uplifting the country's economy. He says it is for this reason that they have embarked on the industry needs assessment in order to develop effective programs to improve vocational skills needed in different projects in the post-COVID-19 recovery plan. He says they are hoping to finish the study by April this year.
The TVET enhancement project is under the Taiwan Technical Mission, and the mission has engaged ESAPARC to do some research or an assessment on the key priority needs in terms of skills that are needed to induce growth within the 5 strategic areas of growth that are highlighted in Eswatini strategic roadmap. And so what we are trying to achieve out of this assessment is to identify skills that will be priority for investment going forward. And you're looking at your technical and vocational colleges, that is ECOT, Eswatini College of Technology, and as well as Kwamile Voktim. And so we are very much looking forward to this output, so that then we can make these recommendations for the priority areas of investment in terms of TVET skills development in Eswatini to support the government of Eswatini strategic roadmap.
The post-COVID-19 economic recovery plan priority areas include business, agriculture, tourism and environment, mining, energy and water, infrastructure, as well as information, communication and technology. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ngamandla with Muzim Konda in Babane.
Nzingeni Member of Parliament Lutho Dlamini has advised Eswatini to take the coronavirus very seriously because the virus is deadly. Dlamini said this during an interview with Eswatini TV after he has recovered from the virus and has been discharged from hospital.
Following that, Nzingeni Member of Parliament, Honorable Lutho Dlamini, contracted coronavirus during the festive season. Dlamini, who has now fully recovered from the deadly virus, has warned Eswatini to make sure that they take the pandemic very seriously by following all the preventative measures from the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization, especially during this second wave, which is causing havoc the world over. When speaking to the legislator, he explained how he felt and how he suspected that the flu-like symptoms he had were those of COVID-19.
It is very difficult to know how you contracted it, and it is very difficult to even apportion blame. The most important thing is that now that you have it, you have to do something, and we have to act very fast. The symptoms, I think they vary from different people, but the major one, it's fever. This is why maybe we call it a flu. You feel this fever, you get hot, you get cold, you lose appetite, you lose interest in anything, then you have a problem with breathing. And the breathing one, I think that is the one that really crushes a lot of us.
Dlamini further warned Eswatini to avoid assuming that the virus only affects those who are well off and people who are popular in the country, but it affects everyone. He says if people continue to think that way, the country might lose many Eswatini. Dlamini also revealed that when the virus attacks a person, they normally display the normal flu-like symptoms. Therefore, if one experiences such, they must rush to the nearest clinic to test for COVID-19 in order to get assistance promptly. Dlamini also highlighted that COVID-19 triggers other ailments such as sugar, diabetes and blood pressure, and at times people are not even aware of such that they had those ailments. Dlamini applauded health workers for working hard in saving people's lives, especially those already admitted in hospitals around the country. The frontliners are in constant danger of contracting the virus, but they continue working hard to save Eswatini. For Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Dlamini with Muzim Konda, Matsapa.
In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is important that young people continue seeking sexual and reproductive health services at local clinics. This was said by the United Nations Population Fund UNFPA officer in charge, Margaret Twala.
The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted on many sectors, including education and health. The United Nations Population Fund UNFPA says they are worried about the increasing number of young people testing positive for COVID-19. UNFPA Eswatini officer in charge, Margaret Twala, pleads with young people to follow the country's COVID-19 regulations in order to protect the elderly from getting the virus. She says young people should continue to visit local clinics for sexual and reproductive health services.
And to remind young people that COVID-19 is real and figures are on the increase. Young people are not exempted from contracting COVID-19. As indicated by the acting PM statement of 15th January, let's break the chain by not moving around, because by moving around there is a likelihood of spreading COVID-19. Young people, stay at home, because your movement put elderly people and those that are vulnerable at risk of contracting COVID-19. And you also put yourselves at risk of contracting STIs, HIV, and some of you end up becoming pregnant. We as UNFPA are urging you to use the available SRH services that are in the health facilities. By end of 2020 last year, we were very worried because a number of young people were becoming pregnant because schools are closed and we are loitering around.
The officer in charge says elimination of the virus lies in the hands of young people as the leading population, with an estimate of 70%. She further applauded the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini for moving to youth-friendly health facilities. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgal Suekoza in Babane.
Eswatini meteorologists have warned the members of the general public to be extra cautious about the tropical cyclone Eloise coming from Madagascar that may affect the country this coming weekend. According to Dumsan Sitole from the Meteorological Service Department, if the strength of the cyclone will be heavy, the country might experience heavy rainfall.
Cyclone Eloise, which might hit so many areas in the country, will be coming from the eastern side of Madagascar, passing through Inhambane in Mozambique this coming weekend. Dumisani Stole, a meteorologist from the Meteorological Service Department, says if the tropical cyclone will move towards the country, this might cause heavy rains which will be accompanied by heavy storm, affecting electricity lines in the country.
We are having a tropical storm currently approaching Madagascar, and it's only going to be affecting, or it will be crossing over Madagascar, that is towards the weekend. We are expecting it to reach or to pass through, that is, as per our current conditions, it's indicating that it will pass through Nyembane or just south of Upeira. But areas which are at danger, it goes up to some portion of Swaziland. It's within the watch zone, which means currently we're just watching whatever is happening. Because with the tropical storms, it keeps on changing depending on the conditions as per whatever is happening with the weather. Otherwise, we're just watching it and we'll let the nation know whatever is happening or whatever changes is expected from the storm.
Sitole further says the Meteorological Service Department will monitor the situation in order to update the members of the public in case there might be changes. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Zoto Altameni with Musum Konta, Babane.
People at Sinyamandulwa community are sleeping in unroofed houses due to an intense rainstorm that wreaked havoc to their houses and destroyed their roofings. The people are saying life is tough because all their furniture and other belongings are soaking wet.
A heavy rainstorm accompanied by intense showers and strong winds has destroyed over 20 houses, ripping off their roofs and leaving some of their walls cracked. We spoke to some of the victims to hear how they are coping and dealing with the situation.
Kwathi ngabo 1:30 kwaqala umoya lomkhulu sathi sesehlethe ekhathi endlini sabona sekuhambe emathayela laqala lana kakhulu kuhambe emathayela silange ekhathi endlini sangathi sidobheka phi but sagcina sihleli phase embethe
la nje linokudla kwenyezeka ngoba laphakathi endlini kwakufana nokuthi sihlezi la ngaphandle ukudla kwakulapho kwafele kwenyeka konke kwagcwala amanzi.
Buchopho of Lubulini constituency, Bonginkosi Mabaso, says they have contacted the National Disaster Management Agency as well as Bapalali Eswatini Red Cross, and they both pledged to visit the affected homesteads to assess the situation and see how they can respond to it.
Siyakhala kakhulu kulabo labangasisita bafikile ke ngikushaya baka NDMA bashito ukuthi batawutheleka lamuhla ngenxa yobugasolini into babe kulisondvo.
Mabaso thanked the National Disaster Management and Bapalali Eswatini Red Cross in responding to the disaster expeditiously. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Sifiso Ngumalo with Smuva Shongwe, Sinyamandulwa.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade has extended the validity of trading licenses and liquor license to the 31st of March 2021. The decision for the extension is to reduce the long queues for renewals that pose a risk for the spread of COVID-19. The Ministry's office will continue to operate on normal hours. A very good evening once again. You're still watching Eswatini TV News. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. The Q Sports Association Chairman Muntu Dlamini says the outbreak of COVID-19 has delayed the establishment of regional Q Sport associations. Dlamini says the pandemic will have a negative impact on the standard of the sport since it will deteriorate drastically.
The Q Sports Association last year started the process of establishing regional associations. Manzini is so far the only region with an active association, which left the other 3 regions still to have their own. The Q Sports Association chairman, Muntu Dlamini, says the coronavirus outbreak is one of the main reasons that the establishment of the associations in the other region has slowed down.
Kusiphazamisile vele kakhulu kunengilebe sevele sekududane kuthi sifike ngasekugcineni hoho nje nangingabekisa ngoba bebahle bathi veta letinto sebatendile lamaphepha abo.
Dlamini says this outbreak has really disturbed them, as in they have done a lot in terms of completing their registration. WOWO is almost ready to affiliate to the National Association as they have all their papers in order, but it has been suspended after gatherings were prohibited. And Shiselweni still needs guidance on the requirements they have to meet, so for now it has stalled as they wait for a way forward from the government.
Guidance bekumele siye kibo siyobasita to set up lokulama requirements zabatokhona kwasubmit but kasikakhona ukuthi siyohlangana nabo.
Dlamini says the suspension also delays growth of their sport.
Yeah, kuyasidimata man Nkosi yami, kusilimata kakhulu ngalokuthi lesasasa nelizinga bese liphakeme lisedulu.
Dlamini says this is really affecting the growth of the sport, as the level and interest in the sport was growing, with the regions playing constantly, even though some were still playing outside the proper structures. And the suspension of sports because of COVID is taking their sports backward.
Nalo lithemba lokuthi bonke badlali bepool nabalandzeli bepool sitawela nabo ngale kwale COVID sichubeke sicalele phansi senyusele izinga libile la kufanele libe khona khona.
The association says they will continue to help the regions establish their association, which in turn will help them as an association to select the national team that is well represented by all the region. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwa Msibi, Ngwenya.
Well, for now, before we wrap up our bulletin, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. The acting Prime Minister says Cabinet is devastated by the passing of former Minister for Public Service Christian Jangase. The acting Minister for ICT says Eswatini should not panic, as there is no relationship between COVID-19 and the developed 5G technology. The Parliament of the Kingdom of Eswatini has mourned the passing of Minister Jangase. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the crew here at Eswatini TV. Stay home, stay safe. Good night.